Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome to the third week of the EGL Waveline. We're a little late. I had a very busy day. I'm like sweating as we speak, but we have some special guests today. Matt Pizza, because he never shows up when I tell him to, and Silent. So Silent, if you can give us a quick introduction.
What's up, everyone? I am Kills and/or Silent. I'm the captain of Clown Gaming Jesters, and you're here right before my match to talk to everyone.
Yep. So it's nice to have some players, have some people from the team speak once in a while. We get a good look into some of the teams and stuff like that. So we're just gonna jump right into it since we're on a little bit of a late start here. So we're just taking a look at last week's game. So we had a 2-0 Literal Monkeys versus Feed the Dream. This was our stream match, so it was it was a quick 2-0, but at the same time, it really wasn't. I think this was a really interesting series where FTD, they beat, who did they beat week one? Clutch, if you can remind me.
I bet you Silent knows.
I wonder who they beat week one.
I think Silent might know the answer to that
Ooh,
question.
okay, all right. Context clues. They beat Clown Gaming in the first week. So it was heavily favored towards Clown Gaming. So coming into this, that second week, I think it was going to be... I think we had a lot of, predictions towards Feed the Dream, but at the same time, Literal Monkeys was coming in still slightly favored towards Feed the Dream. I think this was a big match for them to actually lose compared to win. So this was that... I don't know. I think this was kind of a benchmark for them, Clutch, where, if Feed the Dream beat them, then, we're going to have to say, we really need to start taking this team more seriously than we were before. But, losing that 2-0 to Literal Monkeys, Clutch, what do you think this team is looking to do afterwards?
Yeah, so Feed the Dream right now, I still think they are currently better than Iconic and Hyperion. Both those teams have just not looked that good so far. I mean, Iconic looks better than Hyperion. Hyperion's having their midlife crisis right now, and everything's breaking down. But Feed the Dream, to me, they're a solid, sixth place team. I could see them as the last seed in the playoffs as of right now. It's still week two. Well, now it's going to be week three. So, obviously things can change, but the rankings to me are starting to solidify of where I think the teams actually are. And I think Feed the Dream, actually, I said this in the power rankings, so if you didn't get this or you didn't read it, I said Feed the Dream is a lot like the Golden Guardians in the LCS, where they actually have a damn good early game. Their early game is really clean. They find themselves leads, but the second it hits mid to late game, they fall apart and end up losing the game. So they just need to end up fixing that, and I think they could be a pretty solid team in the league.
Yeah, like you mentioned, we saw a really clean dive, I think, from Feed the Dream in one of the games, right in bot lane. They had 4 people rotate down. It was really well executed, right? But like you said, kind of mid to late game, it kind of falls apart. And for Literal Monkeys, I think a player that we were pointing out over and over again was Jesus Juice 13, their jungler on the Kayn. Really strong showing both games on that Kayn. So, big props, big respect. So Matt Pizza, looking at this series from 2-0, Literal Monkeys, and I know you're a Feed the Dream fan. Thanks, Matt Pizza. Did change their name after they disappointed you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think Feed the Dream is going to be looking to do then after this series?
Honestly, when we were actually watching the series, right? It was impressive to see how both junglers had at least game one, right? Both junglers had an idea of how they wanted to play, and it really stuck with it, right? Jesus just decided to just farm up and just test his opponent and take just invade while FTD's jungler, right? They made stuff happen. And like Clutch was saying, their early game was really good. They were getting all of these objectives and they were getting things done in the early game. But the moment mid game came around, everything just fell apart. So
Yeah.
I just kind of want to see the same thing that Clutch was talking about. How if they're able to fix their mid game, they could be a really strong team. I'll be honest, FTD week one just blew me out of the water. So if they can show me what they showed me in week one, in week three, I'm full on FTD fanboy. Waiting for my jersey to come into the mailbox. All of that stuff.
So you're just saying, you're able to be bribed and whatnot.
Okay, but
Yeah,
realistically,
okay,
are we all
okay.
not? Everyone has a price.
All right, that's true. Everyone has a price. So Silent, as someone that versed FTD in week number 1, what are your thoughts about this team? You lost them the first week, but then you saw them lose in the second week, right? So coming from the first week to that second week, what do you think? FTD has what do you think is good about this team? What do you think is bad about this team?
Yeah, I think FTD is one of those interesting teams where a lot of these teams are more put together and can win in multiple spots. But I feel like this team lives and dies by its mid laner, Uncool Squash. Basically, if they play well, they're just gonna smash and win the game. And if they don't, there's not much to do there. I feel like last week they didn't have that great of a performance against Literal Monkeys and couldn't get anything going. And obviously in week one they smashed us. He was like 8-1, 10-0 at one point. So it's all around Uncool Squash and if they can get going.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you. There was a lot of, I think, potential, especially when we saw Uncle Squash play that Victor. I just think that he didn't really have the right resources. I think the stars didn't really align for him, especially on that Victor. I think he was playing really well in terms of like positioning, how he was playing team fights and stuff like that. But it was like a little too late for him to really do much. So going into this next match here, we're looking at a 2-0 for Aftermath Esports versus Hyperion Sword. So this is a team. So Hyperion was a team, coming in with a lot of no names, a lot of known veterans, and I don't think they're really having a strong showing. We were seeing them last season in EGL, where they were actually one of like the top performing teams for a really long time. Obviously, like they have a few different players now, and going against Aftermath Esports, which is kind of new blood, new talent, performing as well as they are. I think it's a really nice surprise to see. So Matt Pizza, last week, you actually voted 2-1 Hyperion. So
Mm-hmm.
with Hyperion taking this 2-0 loss, what do you think is something that Hyperion needs to be changing right after this kind of rough start to the series and season?
Um, it just seemed like when I was watching Hyperion, I felt like we hyped up their bot lane, right? We talked about how their bot lane from the last split of EGL, EDL, they were really good. They were cracked, and they were able to play at that level, at the gold level last split. But unfortunately, this split, it seems like they're not having the same success as they were last time. So I'm just like, I'm not entirely sure how they could fix it, right? Because I would feel like you got to work on some pocket picks and like just narrow down the champs that you want to play. But realistically, looking at Hyperion, right, there it's just like there's so many like issues arising, not just from players, right, but from as a team as a whole, right? Like to me, I don't see an identity to this team, right? Compared to Aftermath Esports, right? Aftermath, they have an identity. They like to play through their mid and their bot lane, right? Starbucks sponsor. He's crazy on that Zeri. Like they have an identity. They like to play through their ADC, and if the ADC isn't ahead, they like to play through their mid and top laners. So they have an identity. They have a fallback plan, and they have things that they can use to get back into the game. So I think from Hyperion Origin, I kind of need to see an identity kind of form, hopefully soon, right? Because this
Or
is
their
like a what
Hyperion sword, by the way.
Hyperion Sword. Oops,
Yo,
I
you're
keep saying
stuck. This
Origin.
guy's stuck in the
I'm stuck
past.
in the
It's time.
past.
It's time to move on. It's time to let go, man.
No, the past is important.
uh
But yeah, I just need to see some type of identity form from Hyperion Sword.
Yeah. So Silent, as a team that hasn't played Hyperion just yet, I think they're your week. I'm trying to remember what week you go against them.
I faced them the last week, week 7.
Ooh, week 7. Okay, so Hyperion having that like rough start and Aftermath having a relatively strong start, right? And you guys go against Aftermath week. Let me try and read the schedule really quickly here.
5.
Week 5. Okay, so going into both of these teams, right? When you're playing against them, obviously Aftermath having that stronger record. What do you think of Aftermath though? Like just kind of looking at the series, looking at, being that new team, how do you feel like your team matches up against theirs in that week 5 series?
Especially Aftermath, I think, is one of the matchups that I am most excited to play because I think that I'll match up well against Starbucks sponsor in the bot lane, and especially I think my mid laner and Buckby are going to have a super fun matchup in the mid lane. They both players that play insanely interesting and versatile champions that I think that they're gonna clash very well. I'm excited to have that. And Hyperion, I played them in the preseason tournament in the finals, and for them to get them going, I want to see their jungle and mid have more of an impact because that is what was their strongest point. Their bot lane's always good. We know that Attila, like he's a well-known person in the scene. I want to see their jungle and mid though have more of an impact. Those games that we lost to them in the finals, it was a jungle diff. Like their jungler is a good jungler, and I want to see more impact out of them in these games.
Yeah, you see stuff like Bees played that Trundle. Trundle's obviously one of those champions that he can flex. He can be one of those really annoying champions. It's like top or jungle, and you hold him until the very end. And then, I think one of my players to definitely watch. I speak about her a lot is Mystic Azzy. I think there's a lot of potential, especially in that bot lane, like you mentioned, Attila and Mystic Azzy, very strong duo. But yeah, I think I would like to see what you were just saying. Hyperion still has a lot of that potential to grow as a team. Looking at that next series, Clown Gaming versus Collective 2-1. So, Silence, again, you guys lost one game. So, comparing yourselves to your first week where you guys lost 2-0 to FTD Darken. So, what makes this series different? What makes you think that you guys dropped a game? Could this have been like a clean 2-0? Could have, have swung the other way?
Yeah, the series, I think, in my opinion, in like the most humble opinion possible, I think should have been a clean 2-0. We kind of threw game one. We had a good draft, I think, but we just kind of had like multiple points in the game where we just like hard through. But I also think that my team is we're still trying to find like our pieces and stuff like that. We've had a couple roster swaps, not because of any like performance issues, but just because of just some unfortunate circumstances that have happened. So we're just trying to still find our identity. I honestly think that when we actually find our pieces, hopefully these are our pieces right now that we have. When we get these pieces going, I don't think many teams will take games off of us. I think that game should have been a 2-0, but I'm happy about what happened afterwards. Those last two games are just extremely clean by us. So, but Collective's no slouch of a team either. They played well both games or all three games. So,
yeah, Collective, I've heard a lot of good things about that org. And, I've seen them win like a couple chips here and there and have that kind of veteran experience and status. So I do think, like you were saying, good team, but yeah, you just came out better. And I would like to see, your guys' series this week. Maybe being another clean 2-0. But, we're saving that prediction for later. We're in the interest of time. Clutch VBU 2-1 against Project Iconic. So VBU actually took the 2-1 this week against Iconic, but they dropped a game. So, Clutch, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so VBU is still figuring out an identity on how to play the game. They're obviously, everyone talks about their jungler, Galata. He's super, super aggressive, super strong jungler. He can solo carry games if he's given the resources. And we saw last week when they pulled off the Olaf and the Enchanter, and he literally just ran over the game by himself. So VBU, they're kind of starting to play the style where they play towards the jungler, but it's very easy to target that kind of style. So they're trying to figure out other ways to win the game, really. Like right now, their jungler is just 1v9 and everyone else just like supporting pieces. It's not to say everyone else is bad. Like I think everyone else plays very well. But Glada definitely is the shining star on this team. And Iconic figured out that after game one, hey, if we target this jungler, they don't really have another way to play the game. So that's how Iconic was able to win a game. Regardless, VBU came out on top. And I think VBU is like slightly better than FTD. I think they're like the fifth place team. But for the side of Iconic, I kind of want to see them just pick a style and roll with it because it seems like they're trying out all this different stuff and like nothing is really sticking for them.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, especially in the competitive scene, is there's no way your team is going to be good at every single style, right? And the difficult part is finding one that you're good at, right? So, it's one of those things, like, you can play the same style over and over again, and if you're winning with it, just keep rolling with it, right? Until another team can beat you and show you that you have to change. Honestly, that's, like, one of those ideas that you don't have to change unless other people force you to. So, with that, we're going to just roll right into the predictions. We're looking at Literal Monkeys Fire versus Hyperion Sword. It is kind of a clean sweep this week. So we're going to start from the top. Clutch, you said 2-0 for Literal Monkeys. What do you think is the biggest thing, between Literal Monkeys and Hyperion Sword? Is it just like player gap? Is it just team coherency? Something.
See, we're getting our owner gapped right now. He decided to leave.
Oh my god, he just left. All right, Matt Pizza. Whatever I just said to
God.
Cole, it's your turn. It's yours.
Okay. Alright, well, it's just kind of like what we talked about earlier, right? Hyperion Sword, although they have players that we've known from the previous splits, they just don't have that identity yet. And LTMK, they have been on fire right now, right? They're an undefeated team. I don't think they've even dropped a single game yet. Yeah, no. They have a solid 2-0 record so far. That is scary to go against, especially against Hyperion Origin, who have a really rough start right now. So unless Hyperion, I keep saying Hyperion Origin, Hyperion Origin, Hyperion Sword, Hyperion in general, um, they just need to find an identity. They need to figure out what works for them and just stick with it. And it's just like you said, Exonian. If they find an identity that works, just stick with it. Just double down on it. Just use it 24/7 until someone can beat you with it. And honestly, if they're able to find that identity during a match against LTMK and they're able to give LTMK their first loss, that is a huge upset, and that's gonna put Hyperion back on as one of the scarier teams in this league.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things. It's still early season at the same time. It's one of those shorter seasons, right? It's a 7-week regular season where, starting off 0-2 is, not the prettiest and most comfortable spot to be starting in, right? So, yeah, I have to agree with everything that you said, Matt Pizza. So, Silence, I'm hoping that you've seen, obviously, a bit of both of these teams. So, Literal Monkeys, Fire. Who do you think is... Actually, I'm trying to think of a good question here. Not too much of a hot take, but okay, who do you think would be the weakest link for Literal Monkeys? Kind of, this team is looking really strong, 2-0 into the season, along with Aftermath Esports, right? So being a team with the perfect record right now, where do you think is the crack in this fortress? Where do you start chipping away?
I would have to go with the top lane, in my opinion. I don't think they're Barry Donut. I don't think they're that great. This is from what I've seen their first year playing top lane. I'm pretty sure in all the scouting I've done, they've transitioned roles. I think that, although I do think they're a very strong player and should not be slouched on at all, I think that if there's any cracks in that team, it's going to be in the top half of the map. So I think that if Hyperion wants to maybe eke a game or two out of them, they should look to try and target the top side of the map and maybe find some picks and bans that go their way. Other than that, I think Literal Monkeys is just such a strong team right now.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And No Name's super strong in the mid lane. So any matchup with him then is going to be super, super good to watch. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when we were watching the stream series last week of Literal Monkeys versus FTD, there was... I wouldn't say they played the game perfectly, you're playing in, gold elo, and there's no way people play perfectly regardless. And it's the same thing, in, Plat Diamond, until you're, a pro player. But even then, everyone makes mistakes, right? So, I was seeing a lot of, I would say macro decisions, right? Like you were saying, Silent, there is a lot of just raw mechanical talent on that team, but... there were a few just macro decisions, team decisions where I was I don't know if this is the right or the best thing to do, but at the same time, I think they were, just getting away with a lot of things they shouldn't be or shouldn't have been getting away with, right? So
Yeah.
I kind of said they dropped maybe a game to Hyperion, maybe because maybe one of these mistakes is just too big of a mistake to make, right? So, for the final person that disappeared and then came back, Clutch. You said 2-0, Literal Monkeys. Yep. How long do you think they're going to keep this kind of perfect streak?
Are we talking perfect as in not dropping a single game or not dropping a series?
Game.
Next week.
Week 4 or 5. I think they're going to drop a week 4 through 6 for LTMK is some of the best teams in the league. They play Clown Gaming, who's looked decent. They play Collective, who's looked good. And then week 6, they play Aftermath, which is just going to be the match of the season. Like, that literally is going to probably be for first place. So I'm going to say week 4, I think they'll drop a game to Clown Gaming. But if they don't, I mean, the latest I'll say is week 6. Like, I don't think they'll 2-0 Aftermath. That's going to be really, really hard. I think that's going 3 games. But I mean, LTMK Fire look like probably the first or second best team in the league. They're just unstoppable at this point. Like against Hyperion too. I'm just saying the odds are stacked in their favor to 2-0 this week.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, once you pick up the momentum and you're like, start swinging, then it's kind of hard to stop until finally you hit a team like someone like Aftermath, right? Where finally, like, you're finally against a good opponent kind of thing. But with that, we're going to look at the next series. It's looking a little, one-sided again this week. So we'll start with Silent. This is your team. All right. Who do you think would be the MVP of your team for this series? You can say yourself. No judgment.
Absolutely not me. I would never like that. We're going with my boy Egyptian in the mid lane. Dude is absolutely cracked. I don't see a single mid laner going up against him in this league. Honestly, I think when that dude gets rolling, he's unstoppable. So I think if he gets going, it's going to be crazy. Of course, I'm going 2-0. Can't doubt myself ever. But yeah, I think I don't think Iconic's going to be any slouches either, though. I think that's going to be a good match. But yeah, 2-0 definitely for us.
I like the confidence, my friend. I think Iconic is, one of those teams that has just hasn't found their footing yet, right? Like in a similar pool like Hyperion, where you're starting off 0-2, you really just got to find something that works, right? Where you're taking, like, I don't know how long their games go, but maybe you gotta just really try for like that 40-minute game, flip Elder, and then somehow win that way. Like I voted 2-1. I do think Iconic still has that talent that we saw in week number 1. I think it was very, very possible for that first week against Aftermath for that to go to a 3-game series. So, I'm just kind of saying I want to see something similar from Iconic where they just find that style. Maybe they want to play like super aggressive early, or they want to play like super coordinated team fights where everyone just presses R, right? It's something that's simple, something that's easy to execute, and will hopefully, give them a little bit of confidence as the season goes on. But other than that, I do have to agree with you, Silent. It's looking very heavily favored towards your team. Matt Pizza, you also said 2-0 for Clown Gaming.
Yep. I mean, the reason I said 2-0 is because it's kind of under the same lines. Project Iconic, they haven't had the greatest few opening weeks, and unless something changed in the last week, and like unless Clutch is holding something from us yet again,
True. Every week.
It's every week. He always holds something
I
from us
know.
every week. Unless something changed like that, then it's just gonna be a repeat of what happened, right? Not saying that there might be like small misplays from the side of Clown Gaming that might cause Iconic to take a game or two, but I'm going with my guts. Not going a little crazy this week. Gonna keep all the predictions a little saner, and I'm gonna say 2-0 for the side of Clown Gaming.
Yeah, and then Clutch, you also said 2-0 for Clown Gaming. Just on paper and just record-wise, obviously Clown Gaming has been showing a lot more strength than Project Iconic. And what do you think it would mean, actually, if Project Iconic is able to win the series?
Yeah, so Project Iconic's able to win this series. I'm going to say right now, if they win the series, they're going to win next week also, and they will turn their season around. The reason why I say that is if you can beat Clown Gaming, you can beat Hyperion, because that's who they're playing next week. So they win this week. Confidence is up. They're feeling good. They go against Hyperion, who is right there with them in the standings. They then beat them. You've gone from 0-2 to 2-2. You're now like right there in the hunt for playoffs. So Iconic, it's a big match for them tonight. It would be a huge confidence boost, huge morale boost, because once you start getting into this like losing streak, it is like so hard to break out of it. Like everything you do, like you could be ahead 5K or like 6K one thing goes wrong, you're like, oh no, it's all falling apart again. We're going to lose. Like those thoughts start flooding your head and then you lose. Like it's just how it is when you're on a losing streak. So iconic, they're able to pick up a game or take this series for sure. Turns the season around and they're going to be feeling good.
Yeah, players that I definitely point out were those players we were looking at in the first week, like Counter, their jungler. Some of the most aggressive Amumu gameplay I've seen in a very, very long time. There's only maybe one person I know that plays an even more aggressive Amumu, and Matt Pizza would know his name. Same with Cole. But, like, that Amumu, I have never seen just, every time he's got Q, he's like, I'm going in. I never use Q to hit, like, Scuttle to run away or the wave. No, I'm going in. So the one game they actually did take off of EBU, Counter was on that Amumu, Talib was playing Nautilus, right? So these two champions have a lot of potential to make all these plays in the early game, which I'm assuming, obviously I didn't get to see the game, so I can't say for sure. But, having that kind of early aggressive style, I think could work for Project Iconic. So, yeah, that's the same idea. Find that thing that works for you, stick with it, run with it, run as fast as the wind, and you'll see where it carries you, right? But I think with that, we'll move on to the next series. We're looking at FTD Darken versus Aftermath Esports. Matt Pizza, I don't know, man. They haven't even sent you any merch yet. They changed their name. All right, let's hear it. What's the defense, my friend?
Listen, it's like, you guys. Okay, listen. I haven't been playing League as much. All right, and I've been playing this other game called R6, and then you gotta keep watching. That's the general gist of R6, right? You gotta keep watching an angle, all right? Because the moment you turn around, moment you look away, you're dead. So I'm always gonna be watching FTD, all right? The moment I turn around, moment I say, "Oh, other team's gonna win," FTD is gonna win. So I could go down the route that Clutch is going, being like, you know what, I want them to win, so I'm gonna vote for the other team. But I'm here, I'm repping the team spirit, and I believe in them. I'm just watching them. All right, they definitely can win, right, guys? Right? They
I
can win
wish
this.
I had like the copium icon or something and put it right on top of your icon.
But
That seems to be a lot of what's going on here.
listen, they already got the shipments coming in. Once we're off a waveline, the shipments are in. I'm gonna need to take 5 minutes and do some things. But no,
Yeah.
realistically though, this game is definitely Aftermath sided, but I do believe in my boys on FCD to make a miracle happen, and that's what I'm betting on. 2 miracles so that
Okay,
the team won.
so this isn't even analytical. He's just like, yes, I'm a
No,
super fan, and I just really want them to win.
dude,
Okay.
I can't be analytical about this. If I was analytical about this, I would have the same predictions as everyone. All right, I had to choose one prediction to set me apart. All right, I'm not trying to follow the sheep. I'm not trying to jump off the bridge with you guys. All right.
Okay, so I said 2-1 for Aftermath because I don't think there's any team that's perfect that's gonna end with a perfect record. Obviously, Aftermath, Literal Monkeys, feel free to prove me wrong, right? But I think that Aftermath and FTD, I think just after last week, FTD has still so much to prove, right? After that first week where they beat Clown Gaming, they're like feeling really good about themselves. And then the second week, losing to Literal Monkeys, I think, they're just looking to use Aftermath as a benchmark, say, we have to try so much harder this week to really prove to other teams, that, we're more than just, one and done after the first week of strength. So I think that obviously at the end of the day, I do think Aftermath takes this series, but I think FTD will come in maybe winning that first game or something, and just having that kind of confidence and I don't know, just what's the word? The want to prove themselves, right? But Clutch, you said 2-0 Aftermath Esports as well. This is kind of the same notion as Literal Monkeys. How far do you think this team goes with a perfect record?
I think Aftermath will go also week 4. I think they're gonna win this week 2-0. I think it's a pretty easy match for them. But I think next week they're gonna play Collective, and I could see them dropping a game to Collective. But I still think this team is absolutely insane. Like their roster is pretty nuts across the board. So it's gonna take a lot for them to actually lose the series. I'm telling you, week 6, That's 1v2 right there. That's LTMK Fire taking on Aftermath Esports. And that should be circled on both those teams' calendars. You're highlighting it. You are like putting the date down on your phone on the calendar. You're like, oh, this is going to be a banger match. So I'm looking forward to week 6, but I think week 4, that's when Aftermath's going to finally end up losing a game. And I think that's when LTMK Fire is also going to lose a game. So I think they both lose in the same week. They lose one, but they win the series.
Yeah, that's fair to say. Then Silent, you also said 2-0 Aftermath Esports. So, looking at both of these teams, we were talking about FTD and Aftermath, both being relatively strong teams. But Silent, as you lost to FTD, what makes you think that, Aftermath is going to 2-0 them?
Starbucks sponsor.
Starbucks sponsor.
That's basically it. I think Starbucks sponsor is extremely strong, and if they don't get rid of the specific champions that matter to Starbucks sponsor, they don't ban the Zeri, they don't get rid of the Jinx, I think that Starbucks sponsor is just going to take over the game. So that's basically the turning point. I also think Aftermath is just a much more put together team than FTD Darken is. So I think they should handily take this game.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it before. Aftermath has a lot of that talent, and I think even just from watching them on stream in week number 1, just the way that I've seen Aftermath play, they really don't give up. Even if they're down like 5k, they're down like a bunch of kills, they're like, nah, we still try. And I pointed, Ikazuchi out before, I've seen some like, just when you make those plays, I don't know if they're out of desperation, out of like, man, I'm so far behind, I just gotta make something happen. But at the same time, it was such a good play and such a good pick that at the same time, I was like, there's no way that like this is tilt. Like this had to have been like, I see the angle, guys. We're going in. So, like you said, Silent Starbucks sponsor on that Zeri is a kind of a monster. Just ban the Zeri, man. Zeri's just so unfun. She just like zooms around everywhere. Buckby we've talked about. Convey, I think, like we were talking about, so many of these players with so much talent. Even Fat Jesser, English is hard. I've seen some like crazy stuff from every single player on this team. So yeah, Aftermath Esports definitely on that watch list for sure. So this is our last and streamed match of the week. This is the most distributed. It's not one-sided. There isn't just one person on the other side of, the predictions here. So Matt Pizza, you and I are on the team of green, and on Team Red, it's Clutch and Silent. But we all predicted the series to be a 2-1. So I'll start with you, Matt Pizza. Please give me more than Hopium or like I just like VBU. Okay, go.
Okay. Realistically, you know how last week Clutch was like, a certain team might pull out a certain something, a little special comp with a little Olaf and some funny supports and stuff. And surprise, VB was the one that pulled it out, right? And that got them the victory game 1. So I think if collective experience don't respect the Olaf and don't ban it away, I think that's an insta win right there, right? Just because like how well they played it, right? Because the last time they played it, they had Seraphine, Tomkinch, Ezreal, Karma along with the Olaf, and they won with 18 more kills than the opponent, and that says something, right? For VBU, who I believe they lost their week 1. Yeah, they lost their week 1 to LTMK. They're able to come in and 2-1 week 2, right? So they're able to they're starting to get the ball moving and rolling. Now that's not to say that VBU has a set playstyle, right? If you see the other game that they won, right? They're having their jungler Glada 1v5. They're having their with Squig like there as well. So those two players, right? Glada, Squig. I think those two are the players to watch on the side of VBU, and I think they'll be able to at least hold on to fort so that their ADC will be able to start doing damage even if they are behind, right? And Merciful Crow is there, being the control mage late game champ that they like to play. So I think overall, VBU likes to work together really well. And with the win that they got last week, I think they're gonna be able to roll that, get the ball moving, get some momentum going, and be able to like start steamrolling through the champions or to the champions, through the games, through the series. It's been a long day, guys. You know.
True. I do think, like you're saying, I do think it's a 2-1 for VBU. Both VBU and Collective here are some middle of the pack teams coming into this series. They're both 1-1, right? One series win, one series loss. And VBU, when they went against Literal Monkeys, they had a 50-minute banger, Matt Pizza. A 50-minute banger. They had a Karthus on, Glada on that Karthus pick. So I wish I could see the damage charts, but rip match history. I would just want to see how much damage that Karthus was doing. If they have, what was his score? 13, 9, and 16, right? First strike Karthus. Press R, technically you only get the first strike proc on one champion. But I just think that if VBU can draw out a game that long against Literal Monkeys, a team obviously that is 2-0, hasn't dropped a game yet, then I think against Collective, if they've cleaned up anything over these past 2 weeks, then I do think this series swings towards them in their favor. But with these two teams, I do see them being a little similar in skill level, so that's why I'm saying it's a 2-1 for VBU. But Clutch and Silent, if no one actually noticed, Silent and Clutch, they had the same predictions down to the series number this entire week. So I don't know who's copying whose homework, but I'll start with Clutch. You said 2-1 for Collective experience.
Yeah, so just to fact check you, by the way, Karthus ended up doing 78k damage.
Oh my, okay, that's a lot of damage.
They lost.
Yeah,
they didn't
win.
win.
A 50-minute banger, 78k. Whew.
Yeah, so this Karthus was unleashed. Reason why I say Collective's going to win. So in the standings, both these teams are 1-1. However, when Collective ended up winning, it was a 2-0. Very clean 2-0. Took the win. And then when they lost, they still took a game. They didn't go down and just get 2-0. Like, they were still able to take a game and against Clown Gaming, who's a decent team. Now for VBU, when they lost 2-0, just clean sweep, they got destroyed. Well, not really destroyed, but game 2 they got destroyed. Game 1 it was close, and LTMK is the best team in the league at the moment. Week 2 they ended up beating Iconic, but it was very close. Like, this was 2-1, and it was looking like they were possibly going to lose. So this is why I said 2-1 Collective. I think this series it could go either way. I think both these teams are middle of the pack teams at the moment. Can they, end up being higher in the standings and potentially crack the top 4? Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, right now there's only 2 teams in the league that I think stand out, and it's Aftermath and LTMK, and then it's like everybody else. So like, there's still 3 and 4. This could be 3 and 4. Clown Gaming FTD could be 3, but like, you never know. So I say Collective. One player I do want to point out for the side of Collective is their jungler, Lacuna, I believe is how you say it. Ended up playing Kindred last week, absolutely dominated in one of the games. So I want to see how he's going to do up against Glada, because both those junglers are carry junglers, and they like being very aggressive and getting things done. So there should be a lot of kills. Like, this is going to be some LPL. We're just going to fight to the death. So definitely going to be looking forward to that.
And last but not least, Silent, you also said 2-1 for Collective as, the team that just won against Collective, right? Have they just kind of garnered your respect after that last week? Or, what makes you think they're going to take this 2-1 against VBU?
Yeah, Lacuna did play Kindred one of the games in Pop-Off, but also played a Kindred in the third game and went like 1-8. So I think that's kind of the duality of where I'm at here. The Kindred could do insanely well, or the Kindred could do literally nothing and have one mark at 30 minutes. So my biggest thing is this game, it's a 2-1. No matter what side it goes, I do think it's going to be a 2-1. Because I think this game is just going to be like, as my name says, as the greatest org in the world, this is going to be a clown fiesta. I think this being the streamed match of the week, if I'm correct,
yep,
is going to be extremely exciting to watch, because it's going to be the most interesting game there is. I do think Collective is a very strong team, though. Marty, I'm scared.
Which one?
Squared.
Which one?
Squared. Both
Okay.
of them super strong in the bot lane, I think. And that's definitely their strongest point, is their bot lane. It was a fun matchup to go against them. So I think if they're able to actually get that going, down there. It should be a 2-1. But I could see VBU pulling it out too. I think it could go either way. But for this week, I'm going to go with Collective.
Yeah, I'd love to like watch just the bot lanes of both these teams duke it out. This is our string match, like you were saying. It's actually 8:15 instead of right on 8. They pushed it back a few minutes. So, yeah, and with that, I think, without unless anyone has like a really really hot take they want to drop before the series, starts, then yeah, we're basically at time. So, Silent, thank you again for being on the show. We always appreciate, players and people with other opinions that aren't just Hopium or I love VBU and I love FTD. So, we really appreciate it. So, at time here. Thank you to everybody that tunes in. Sorry, I was late. My bad. I lost track at the time. Being busy kind of sucks. So, Silent, good luck in your series as well tonight. Good luck to everybody else. Make sure to tune in. You can watch the VOD 8:15 p.m. Eastern. We are watching VBU Plutonium versus Collective Experience. Hopefully, we see you guys there.